Hello and welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate with your host, Bridget Stuart. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to our guest, Skye Waterson, the owner and CEO of Unconventional Organisation. Skye, welcome and thank you for being my guest.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to jump straight to this because I feel like your area of expertise, what you do as a coach and what you do with your company is going to be so appealing to so many. You are a coach and your company gives support, techniques, and ways for people to break through when they have ADHD and they're in a position of leadership or business ownership or management. So you've got these skilled, talented people, and your company comes in with your expertise and you help them to succeed when they have ADHD. Can you tell us more about that and tell us more?
Yeah, well, it's been really, really fun. So I'm a former academic. I got diagnosed myself with ADHD at the beginning of my PhD, which threw me into a whole different world. And, I ended up starting my business, Unconventional Organisation, growing it to, multiple six figures. And then it was around that time that I'd worked with business owners. We'd actually run our own business, me and my husband selling frozen food at the time. So we were in that world. And I realized that business owners were the people who were the most likely to have ADHD and the most likely to have these very, very particular struggles where delegation, the fact that it was completely up to them what they did every day and they could hide a lot of the I'm coming into the office and fighting fires, but nothing's moving. All of these things were coming through and it was making it much, much harder for them to grow. So I've shifted into specifically working now with business owners, and it's been a really fun few years.
That's amazing because as you know firsthand with multiple businesses that you've owned, when you're a business owner, particularly a small to medium-sized business, you wear so many hats. And I have a question for you with your expertise in understanding individuals with ADHD. It seems like people with ADHD may be attracted to being a business owner of a small to medium-sized business because you wear so many hats. Is that something that you have run into? Is it, do you feel there's an attraction there?
Yes. And actually, when you look at the research, there is an attraction there. So yes, people who have ADHD, we are attracted to business ownership for a couple of reasons. It's got that really great upside potential, which is great for dopamine. It has flexible hours, so that's great for different energy levels. And you can be your own boss. So we often don't fit within the mold. And so the mold can be designed by you. But what happens is people will start a business for that reason, and then they'll find themselves going, okay, the mold can be designed by me, but like, how is the mold supposed to be designed again? Like, can we have a little bit of structures? And so that's what I do. I come in and I build systems and structures that aren't your average, business systems, the ones that you would get. They're designed for you, for your brain. And I take it from there and I help everything to scale and build momentum.
So I have another question for you in regards to these business owners that have ADHD. Does everyone know that they actually have it? Sometimes do they self-diagnose and then still reach out to you?
Yeah, so a lot of people, about 50% of people will come to me because they just struggle with the symptoms and they relate to the symptoms. And that's totally fine because, first of all, it can take a long time to get diagnosed. Some people are on that journey and we talk about executive functioning strategies, things that can help you in a whole variety of situations. So yeah, people will come to me. Some people will be diagnosed and that will be the thing that sort of drew them. And some people will be in a position where they will say, we're not diagnosed, we're sort of like, I just feel like I relate to these systems and these strategies. And so we help those people as well.
I wanted to make sure that I stressed that in case there was someone listening to us somewhere and they wanted to reach out to you. Of course they can.
Yes, you don't have to spend $1,000.
That's right,
to come and talk to me.
When you think about the success you've had in assisting these business owners, because really, in my experience, business owners, they touch much more than just their business. Typically, they're very involved in their communities, whether that's local or global. So it ripples out and impacts other people. How do you connect with them in a way where you can start to affect change for them and with them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the things that I really love doing, one of my passions, and I've seen it with so many business owners, is I love helping them go from I feel defective to I have strong strengths and strong weaknesses. I'm managing my weaknesses, and now I'm able to go after my strengths, to really support my team, my family, my community with the strengths that I have. A lot of what I do, especially in the leadership space when it comes to business ownership, is helping people feel very grounded in who they are in a way that they may never have done before. Because with ADHD, we get a lot of people growing up saying, hey, did you notice you're doing it wrong? Have you tried
Right.
this? Have you tried this way?
Right.
And so
Here's the right way.
Exactly. And so, what I can do is I can come in and say, look, this is how you struggle. That is very true. These are the working memory, time blindness struggles that you have. This is how we manage them. But these are the strengths that really help you, especially in business, the creative thinking, the out of the box thinking, those jams you've gotten yourself out of, we all know those moments where you kind of creatively thought your way out of a box, and we can focus in on those and use those as the majority of what we're doing. And that can be very, very helpful.
I think that's great. Do you customize it per person that you work with? So meaning, do you sort of assess? It sounds like you do. It sounds like you assess what their particular strengths are and the particular lesser strengths.
Yeah, so I would say,
and then figure where to go.
We take everyone through a program called Focus Balanced Growth because most people struggle with the same things. So they come to me because they're overwhelmed, they don't have enough time, and their revenue is inconsistent. It's not that they don't make revenue, it's that some days it's amazing and then their marketing drops off and now it's low again and then it's up again. And so we want to create consistency. So that's what we help people through. And usually what we'll do when we're doing this, outside of a very select number of one-on-ones that I do, is we'll go through and we'll say, okay, what is the 80-20 for you, the 20% that's going to give you the 80% return, and we will lock in on that as the first thing. So that is very personal. I work with everybody to help that. And often it's something that you already knew how to do. And it's more that it's boring. And that's where we help with ADHD specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. If there's repetitious boredom involved, that can be very detrimental to consistency.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Have you encountered any challenge with a client where you truly felt stymied? Has there been a business or a client that presented a unique challenge? And how did you overcome that?
I think, clients are always different. They always bring different struggles. But the biggest struggle I have with clients is when they insist on trying to do things in a traditional way. Usually that's the biggest problem I have. They'll kind of, we'll talk about different systems. So for example, one of the things we talk about is giving yourself a reward for starting. If you're doing a boring task, we look at the research into how your brain works. It seems like you do better with a reward at the beginning than a reward at the end. But sometimes people really have struggle giving themselves those rewards. And so they'll kind of go away and be like, okay, I'll do it. And then they'll come back and they'll be like, you know what? I just think I should push through. I just think I should try harder. And that's usually where we lose the thread, because you have to be willing to try a system that's going to work for your brain. And sometimes, and it sounds really strange, but we can be really hard on ourselves. And we can resist doing things because we're like, I just need to wake up and, take a cold plunge every day and meditate for 3 hours and then we'll be good. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for a lot of people, that's not the dopamine that they're getting.
No. And that definitely would cut into a lot of the 20% that makes the 80% time-wise.
Exactly.
So, because there's limited time. So I think that you have some similar philosophies as I have. When you look at the identifying the 20%, preferably within their strength zone, that leads to 80% of their results, I also like to carry it one step further and make sure that 80% of each work week is filled with those 20%. I'm assuming you make that same sort of cross-reference attempt.
Yes.
and that 20% of the calendar can be distractions, things that come up,
Yeah.
unexpected, or they got off track and then they get back on. Do you have how important for the majority of your clients would you say that their calendar is?
It's crucially important. And usually the first thing that we're doing is we're going through a focus filter. I actually give this away. You can DM me, Bridget, at Unconventional Organisation on Instagram, and we'll give you the link to the AI bot that will take you through this process. But essentially what it looks like is the first thing that I'll do with people, because they'll come to me and they'll be like, I have 200 tasks. They're all due today. Nothing will convince me otherwise. Spoiler alert, I've never had anyone have more than 5. So, So what we do is we go through and we say, okay, first of all, let's do a brain dump of everything in your head. When we have ADHD, we struggle with working memory. Your brain is full of stuff. Let's write it down somewhere you're going to use again. So not a random piece of paper, but a journal or a doc or something like that. And then from there, we look at that task list and we say, okay, what on this task list is truly, truly urgent in the next 24 hours? And the way I help people think about this, because people often say, oh, that's the Eisenhower matrix. It's like, cool, but you've tried the Eisenhower matrix and it hasn't worked. So we go through and we say, imagine that your day went sideways and you ended up in a waiting room. That was your day. That's what you were doing today for whatever reason. What is the thing you would still do on your phone? Or you would message someone and you would say, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this tomorrow because I'm not going to be prepared because of this situation. Those things are the things that are truly urgent. Nothing else is truly urgent today. And what that allows people to do is it allows them to breathe a sigh of relief. It allows them to put aside some of the things that might have seemed urgent or honestly easy to tick off. Oh, it would have been so nice. And then with that time that we have left to go ahead and say, well, let me do that 80-20. Let me do the things that are going to really move my business forward. And what I usually say to people is that the job of your life, it's not to do everything on your task list, especially when you're ADHD. You're a divergent thinker. You're more likely to come up with a variety of different ideas and thoughts and all of those kinds of things. So instead, why don't we go ahead and, do something where we are just doing the urgent things that are on our task list, doing the important things that are on our task list, and leaving the rest for later, because it's going to be easier later. You hit those dominoes, you start knocking down those big things that are going to move your business forward. You would be surprised how much easier it is to get things off your task list eventually, not all at the same time.
Do you feel that some people with the 200 tasks in a day, do they get a dopamine hit if they actually get through a big chunk of it? Like it's the actual doing as much as they can on the list, or heaven forbid, doing all of it. And are they putting a bigger emphasis on the dopamine hit from completing or nearly completing a huge, climbing the tallest mountain versus actually completing the 20% that is the real priority? Like, have they built up over the years almost chasing the dragon of the big dopamine hit of doing 200 things in one day?
It's a good question. I mean, I think we all get a lot of dopamine from firefighting. So, somebody comes in, they're like, this is an emergency. And then you're like, I'm on it. And then you did it. And then you're like, yes, that was the best. And it's like, but was that really your job? Was that something you should have delegated or pushed to somebody else? Or, was that a fire, or did that just look like a fire? So often that is true. A lot of the sort of high importance, low urgency tasks, no one's going to care. So for example, one of the things that I teach people to do or help people do is, they'll do an email list of people they'll email and say, hey, can we collaborate? Can I work with you? All of those kinds of things that will have massive shifts long term in your business, but short term it's just you writing emails to potentially no one. So it definitely doesn't feel the same as somebody with a crisis. And often we can put those things off until the very end of the day, which can have a big effect on our family as well, because if we actually finally sit down and start doing the important stuff at 4 p.m., it's hard to get home and it's hard to be present when you're home.
Yes. And then everything bleeds over. And I say that turns into muddy water. It's a lack of clarity and perforated boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we're not the one, the family is the one. The family and
Mm-hmm.
friends are the ones that pay the cost.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And we are
Yeah.
too, and we just don't know it at the moment that it's
Yeah.
happening. So I'm curious, you mentioned that you and your husband had a frozen food business and you were a business owner, and then you realized that you had a strength of being able to allow others to see a path to the success that they desired. So at some
Mm-hmm.
point, you decided that you were going to create Unconventional Organization. Could you
Yeah.
share with everyone a little bit about what that was like for you? And what was that moment when you shifted from being a business owner here into the business owner of your own company? I mean, the other one was your own company too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was all around COVID. So I was, doing my PhD. I was learning these systems and strategies. I was working with schools and working with my university, but I wasn't really thinking about it as a business. And then COVID happened, and all the food businesses got shut down. So it was like, there's no more food businesses allowed. And that was
Oh my goodness.
that was a big shift for us. And so.
Right.
But also we all went home. And so I'd been working in schools. I'd been like coming to schools and teaching a little bit about ADHD and working with the teachers and things like that. And so when we all went home, I was naturally looking for a way to keep doing what I'd been doing, which was teaching and educating on this topic that I was so passionate about, but in an online space. And that's really when I found the concept of being a coach and an ADHD coach as well. And I started writing articles and, referencing articles, which was unusual, about this topic and started coaching. And that's really when it happened. It took off and it was a realization of, oh, this could be something as well. And this is something I'm super, super passionate about doing.
So where are most of your clients?
So most of my clients are in the US, and I guess
Okay.
that's the other side of working during COVID. We were all at home. Most of my clients,
We were all
yeah.
instantly worldwide.
I know. It was so. Most of my clients
Who's
are in
that
the US.
pop star that's Mr. Worldwide? What is that?
Oh yeah,
Pitbull.
Pitbull. I think. Yeah.
All of a sudden, it was all of us. Bridget Stuart
Exactly.
Worldwide. Skye Waterson Worldwide.
Exactly. So yeah, so I started working with the US, which I love, and I still work majority with people in the US. Also some people in Australia, some people in Canada. I choose to live in New Zealand. It's a beautiful place. And yeah, I've been working with people building their businesses for years now, and it's been really, really fun to see. I think the growth, obviously I'm a huge fan of results. I think it's so important. Yes. I always say I don't want you to come away just feeling like that was really fun. I understand myself better. Like that's great, but I want you to come back with like your business is growing and it's working better than it was before.
Yes.
But also, it's been so great having people do that on the back of more confidence in who they are. And sometimes it's, people you wouldn't expect who are very successful, but have had that nagging sense of shame, or they haven't, they feel like they've had to hide certain parts of themselves, or that they are the problem, the bottleneck, and being able to come through and say, yes, you struggle here. We're not pretending that's not true. But you have these strengths. And when we manage that and support this, you're actually able to really comfortably sit in this person that you are and grow a successful business, because actually ADHD is a really great type of, person to be when you're trying to grow a business.
Absolutely. Yes. Very often they are people that will passionately, with intentionality, pursue success. And if they fall down, they're willing to get back up. I know I'm talking in broad strokes, but correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a gift sometimes hidden in the chaos. But there's a gift there when you have ADHD, or as we talked about earlier, you may feel you do an online assessment and it's like you probably do. And if you relate to the traits, a lot of times you will really create change and impact people around you that you may not even know. So it's incredible when that's allowed to come forth. You mentioned, and we've talked a little bit about strengths, and I I feel like some of the natural skills and strengths of people with ADHD are sometimes given negative labels, or are when you're young and you're in school and you're a maverick or a creative or however it shows up there, maybe talkative,
Oh,
whatever that
yeah.
is. There's this pressure to, as you mentioned, like, say, well, you shouldn't be that way. You should be this way. You're in trouble because you did that. Whereas a lot of times I think strengths are stymied in that process. And I think it shows up a lot of times in that decisiveness or leadership or drive, and it can be suppressed. And then you have these adults where that's who they are. So it's still inside of them. And sometimes I think they are calling a strength a big weakness. And it's really not. It's really a gift.
Yeah.
Do you ever have to work with people to get them to shift their self-perception? And that's your golden strength. It's not a weakness.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I would say that that sometimes that is the case, especially when we're talking about, being a little bit extroverted, or, being maybe on the ADHD side of it, we've got inattentive versus hyperactive, and then actually in both.
Right.
Generally speaking, a lot of that comes from this idea of masking. So people often come to me and they say, hey, I didn't know I had it. I did a lot of masking. God knows, I've done a lot of masking in my time before I knew I had ADHD. What do I do now? Do I just let my ADHD flag fly and, do I continue to mask? And so a lot of times it's a conversation of really how you want to show up. And it's more of an authentic how you want to show up. Do you want to show up as yourself, but also, understanding, well, I still have these weaknesses, but really, again, leaning into those strengths. And a lot of times, one of the best things that I always say to people, because I have a community of entrepreneurs, and I always say to people, look, I have this this community, but one of the reasons I love working with people like that is because I can tell you that this is a strength. I can tell you that this is, awesome. And you'll just be like, oh, well, Skye's just being nice. Sometimes people say to me, like, you don't even seem like you have ADHD, which is completely untrue. I write about it all the time. I have combined type. I have both of the things. But when you talk to somebody else, who's doing what you're doing, who you respect, and then they come in and they struggle and they say, like, oh, I just cannot, I'm struggling to go to sleep on time, I'm checking my phone, like all of those struggles that we can have when we have ADHD that we don't necessarily talk about in like the public sphere, and we can have that unmasking moment. It provides so much more confidence because you're like, but this person is doing really well in this industry. And it's like, yeah, you could do both. You can struggle and you could do well. And you can manage your struggles and you can continue to do well, and we can like go on this journey together.
Well, I think what you're doing is remarkable. And it sounds like you are also growing yourself and enjoying your passion, having this outlet with your company, Unconventional Organization. Is that satisfying you as an individual and as your own CEO and leader?
Yeah, definitely. I do the research into this topic, and I actually, do it often in public. If you go on my podcast, you'll hear me look at the latest research into ADHD, and I'm always trying to learn and develop. And the reason that I love this is because, I started this, before I started this program, I was just somebody who had ADHD, who was an adult, who was doing a PhD, who was like, how the heck am I going to do this without burning out massively like I have in the past? And using the research to figure that out and then test it. And now to be working with other people and to be able to do that as well, it is incredibly rewarding. But yes, I have ADHD. I don't medicate. And people often ask me why. And I'm like, well, I have to be the most ADHD person I can be because it helps me to experience the struggles of doing it. I still struggle with all of the weaknesses. I just have systems. I'm living what I'm doing, which is I have systems and strategies in place to help get that focus, balance, growth. And then I live in my strengths, which, I love coming on podcasts. I love chatting. If you made me write a really long, book or article on something, it's going to take longer. It's not my strength. So I work in the area that I've got to strengthen. Yeah.
I think that's incredible. And it's allowing you to field test everything you're sharing with your clients because you're field testing it on yourself first. And you're polishing and refining the systems. So there's growth occurring. It's ongoing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not ever going to become the T word. It will not ever become traditional.
No, you'll never find the traditional in here.
Now,
love business strategies. Like I've worked with some of the top in the world, getting the best business systems, but people come to me because they're like,
absolutely.
that was cool. Now I want to action it and actually do it every day. How do I do that?
Well, I do coaching and I also do some consulting. And sometimes people will say to me, well, what's the difference? Consulting is where you analyze, you investigate, you come up with, if you follow this strategy, you could expect these results, and you hand it to them and they implement or not, which
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but I think a lot of times they don't, right? Or they don't do it consistently. Whereas
Yeah.
coaching is what you said. It's like, okay, this is a great system and this is a proven business strategy. Can you help me do it and do it better than I would on my own and get results? So I love that your clients are experiencing that with you.
Yeah. And it's
I
a
think
really
that
fun
is
journey to
phenomenal.
go on. Yeah.
So did you
I love it
reopen
too.
the frozen food company post-COVID?
No. By the time
Okay.
COVID was finished, the Unconventional Organization had grown so much that not only did I not open the food company, but I actually ended up leaving my PhD to run this business full time. It was the hardest decision I
Wow.
ever made. My professors encouraged me to do it. They said this is a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I'm like, well, I think we could have done it again. But at the time, this felt, it's such a big moment. And I'm really, really happy that I did. It was the right choice. It's a hard choice, but it's one that I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited to be doing every day.
And tell everyone a little bit more about your podcast. Who do you feature? Is it mainly you? And how often you have episodes?
Yeah, so my podcast is called the ADHD Skills Lab. We've got podcasts that come out every week and we alternate. So on one week, I do research recaps with the wonderful Will from Hacking Your ADHD. And we go through a new piece of ADHD research. We talk about everything to do with that and kind of like let you inside the minds of the people who make the rules about, what you should be doing and all that kind of stuff. And then on the other side, I interview some wonderful entrepreneurs who have ADHD, talk about their journeys, or I interview somebody who is an expert in their area, so Facebook ads or something like that, and we work through what this looks like from an ADHD perspective. So lots and lots of strategies if you're somebody who runs a business and you struggle with ADHD symptoms.
Well, I find it fascinating, and I really enjoy that you're sharing actual research and data. And I think that that's remarkable, and that you have the flow and the variety. So everyone that is interested, I'm going to make sure that all of your links are everywhere that the podcast is. And I'm going to encourage them to reach out to you. When you think about your own self and your company has grown to this size, have you any goals that you would like to share? What's coming up for Unconventional Organization in 2026?
Yeah, well, I would love to grow the podcast to be even more valuable. It's a huge passion of mine. I have social media, I have all the things, but I'm a big podcast person. I love a chat. So my goal for the next year is really to make the podcast like one of the top resources in the world for people who struggle with ADHD symptoms and they run a business. And outside of that, we have the Focus Balance Growth program and we are growing that. We only take about 8 people a month. So really just continuing to find the best people who really want to grow and they struggle with these symptoms and they're, in the right spot to grow a community of people who support each other and have a lot of fun growing together.
Well, I have one last question, and it's kind of a practical question. So let's say that someone is not a business owner, and yet they still have a very important position. Maybe they're the vice president of a large corporation, or maybe they are a regional manager for a company they don't own, but it's a really key role. If someone is in a position like that, even if they don't own the business, could they also reach out to you if they're looking to have that breakthrough in their own performance at work?
Yes, I have a limited amount of one-on-one sessions that I do with people. So I will work with people, I've worked with people who have very large businesses. I've worked with people who've been academics or very high up directors at Google, things like that.
Right.
And if you come and you do have those struggles, you can reach out to me and give me information. And if it's a good fit, then we'll talk about more personalized one-on-one coaching and the availability for that.
Well, Skye, thank you so much. You have been very informative, and I'm very impressed that you faced a huge obstacle, as all of us did. I mean, the rug was just yanked out on a global
little bit.
manner, right? But what a great opportunity, and that you discovered in a time of crisis where you're impacting not just yourself and your family, but so many people around the world. And I'm intrigued and want to learn more about what you do. I would be so thrilled if maybe in the new year you would be a guest again on the Inner Estate, and I hope that you'll return. And if you are listening to this episode of the Inner Estate, of course, I hope you'll return as well. So, Skye, thank you so much for being our guest. And again, I'm going to have links to all of your great resources, tools, and your podcast in all the descriptions. So thank you so much.